warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, it's me Rafa Yunita from Group 6. I'm as the first speaker. In this video, I would like to tell you and to explain to you about Estranged Labor, Economic and Philosophical Manuscript of 1844 by Karl Marx. So, without any further ado, let's move into the explanation. Under the economic system of private ownership, society divides itself into two classes. The first, the property owners, and the second, the property-less workers. In this arrangement, the workers not only suffer impoverishment, but also experience an estrangement or alienation from the world. This estrangement occurs because the worker relates to the product of his work as an object alien and even hostile to himself. The worker puts his life into the object and his labor is invested in the object. Yet, because the worker does not own the fruits of his labor, which in capitalism are appropriated from him, he becomes more estranged the more he produces. Everything he makes contributes to a world outside of him, to which he does not belong. Everything he makes he shrinks in comparison to this world of objects that he helped create but does not possess. This first type of alienation is the estrangement of the worker from the product of his work. The second type of alienation is the estrangement of the worker from the activity of production. The work that the workers perform does not belong to the worker but is a means of survival that the worker is forced to perform for someone else. As such, his working activity does not spring spontaneously from within as a natural act of creativity, but rather exists outside of him, and signifies loss of his self. The third form of alienation is the worker's alienation from species being, or human identity. For human beings, work amounts to a life purpose. The process of acting on and transforming organic matter to create things constitute the core identity of the human being. A person is what he or she does in transforming nature into object through practical activity. But, in the modern style of private ownership and the division of labor, the worker is estranged from this essential source of identity and life purpose for the human species. Last but not least, the fourth and final form of alienation is the estrangement of man to man. Since the worker product is owned by someone else, the workers regard this person, the capitalist, as alien and hostile. The worker feels alienated from and antagonistic towards the entire system of private property through which the capitalist appropriates both the object of production for his own enrichment at the expense of the worker, and the worker's sense of identity and wholeness as a human being.
Hi everyone, I'm Dea Nahda Nabillah as a second speaker, and I would like to explain about Karl Marx's background. Karl Marx was born in Tyre on May 5, 1818, then he lived by moving from place to another place. He had a wife named Jenny von Westphalen and died on March 14, 1883 in London. Marx was born into a simple family. His father was a lawyer who changed his belief a Jew to a Protestant Christian. Then, when Marx was 6 years old, his entire family embraced beliefs like his father. At first, Marx was a student majoring in law at Bonn University who then moved to the philosophy department Berlin University after 1 year of law studies. When he was a philosophy student, he was active as a member of Young Hegelian Club. The club often discussed Hegel philosophy in their discussion. Marx joined this club with his colleagues named Branch, Arnold Ruch, and Bruno Bauer, who were important figures in the club. Then, in 1843, Marx married Jenny von Westphalen, who was the son of a Protestant aristocrat who had an open mind, so that there was no contradiction from Jenny's parents to bless his daughter's marriage.
Her back. In addition to the second figure, Marx, also explored the thought of Adam Smith and David Ricardo in the theory of his. So we are going to focus on Hegel and Feuerbach ideology. The first is George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Two of Hegel's concepts influenced Marx's thought, dialectics and Hegel's idealism. Dialectic is a way of thinking and imagining about the world. As a way, dialectical thinking emphasizes the importance of processes, relationships, dynamics, and conflict and contradictions. And the second is from Ludwig Feuerbach. Feuerbach criticized Hegel's thought, which emphasized more awareness and enthusiasm public. Feuerbach proposed the concept of materialism to critics idealistic thought from Hegel. According to Feuerbach, there is no need to focus on the idea but on the material reality of human life. And Feuerbach also criticized religion, which then influenced Marx in developing his thinking on historical materialism and Marx's critique of religion. The birth of the Communist Manifesto was in 1848, coincided with the political tensions that were rocking Europe at the time. The French historian and socialist leader Jean Jaurès said, "The French Revolution, as all its contents, is socialism. Socialism is injected from outside into the Republican idea." Paris, which had only recently experienced the Revolution of 1789, became one of the gathering places for socialism from all over the mainland Europe, especially political escape from Germany. It was this who then injected his revolutionary ideas into Germany. But at the time, the idea of socialism and criticism of capitalism was still in a limited scope, namely among intellectuals. As a result of the idea of socialism and its debates spreads more through writings, books, journals, and in study groups than in factories. Meanwhile, at the same time, opposition to capitalism has become a common symptom in Europe at the time. The idea of socialism also developed, especially the idea of socialism utopia, which was pioneered by Claude Henry de Rouvroy, Comte de Simon, Karl Fourier, and Robert Owen. But what distinguishes between the ideas of Marx and Engels with the anti-capitalism movement in general is that they place laborers as the most important part in the movement against capitalism. As the historian Hal Draper writes, Marx is a leading figure in the history of socialism who in principle adopts his positions that support trade unions and trade unions. Marx and Engels met for the first time in the city of Cologne, Germany in 1842. At the time, Marx was the young editor of the radical newspaper the Rheinische Zeitung, while Engels had just finished his mandatory military service. However, the intellectual and political collaboration of the two actually took place only when they met in Paris, France, in 1844. In 1845, because of his political activities, Marx was in persona non grata from France, and then moved to Brussels, Belgium. In this new place, Marx was in the midst of a European communist struggle that connected him with socialists in Paris, London, and Cologne.
The commodity fetishism, that is the collective belief that it's natural and inevitable to measure the value of useful things with money. Marx coined the term to mock political economics who believed that carefully studying economic systems would eventually yield a set of natural laws comparable to those found in physics or chemistry. In a regrettably racist outburst in Capital, Marx compared the political economists of his day to primitive people who attribute magical powers to ordinary objects, such as stones, wood, carvings, weapons, or, in the case of economists, physical currency. Their theories, Marx filmed, amounted to little more than a superstitious belief that animal spirit lurked in commodities and moved market by magic. Marx was convinced that most economists barely scratched the surface of economic reality because they were entranced by its elaborate symbolism, like money, debt, property rights, prices, and, in our time, ever more complicated methods for computing risk. For Marx, The important
Rather than a
truths
commodity being the material
for
product of
economic
human labor,
could all
it
be
is
found in the
bounded with
greedy
metaphysical
process of
subtleties
production,
and
in the
theological
places where people
niceties.
actually worked and
Through
lived.
this associative
From the
social
roaring machinery
organisation
of the
production
factory
and
to the
distribution,
rat-infested hovels
workers
of
are
the
alienated from the
urban
products of their own labour,
proletariat,
adding
from
to
the
the
collapse
fetish.
of rural social life
Humans
to the
rarely
actual
consider the
distribution of
production process of use
natural
values inherent to
resources.
commodities
The
on
most
the right,
important aspects
with
of
labour being
capitalist
thought of as a
society were
massive
all
homogenised
traceable back to political
Commodities can appear to
domination
be
by a small
permeated with
class of
sex appeal,
property owners.
childlike adventure, creative
What
inspiration,
really
or even
mattered
resistance to
about
the
the
commodity
economy
society
in Marx's
itself.
view was the
Commodity
ruling class
fetishism isn't
could rely
conspiratorially
on
orchestrated
its
by
military and
design,
police
but
forces to
actualizes as
resolve
an
conflicts
organic
over
appendage
ownership
of
with violence.
capitalism. Commodity
Marx's point
fetishism
remains
reinforces the
relevant. By
social
the middle of the
relations
20th
underpinning
century,
capitalism by its very
orthodox
negation of labour
economics
as the
had
source of
become a
utility,
heavily
instead
quantitative discipline
reasserting the
that took
objective
pride
character
in
of the
its
commodity
alleged scientific
and of the
objectivity.
capitalist mode of production,
At the heart
which
of modern
proclaims there
economics
no
is the desire to
alternative.
devise model capable of making accurate prediction about economic reality. Consequently, economists are still dissecting the commodity market and studying it under a microscope to discern its secret. They tend to be skeptical of collective decision making and favorably disposed toward markets because they mistakenly attribute agency to money in markets. In effect, believing that the market is moved by mysterious forces that, whether they are natural laws or animal spirits, humans simply cannot control. Okay, that's all for our group. Thank you so much for watching.